Players that fall out of the academy just need something to fall back on.
Do you think we have a responsibility to not only produce elite players, but also good people?
This is the key point.
I've had a really in-depth look into academy football and how it works with certain clubs.
Can you all play in our first team? No, and we're really realistic with the boys. The success is reaching your full potential.
Coming up in this episode, I'll find out what the whole package looks like for the academy footballers.
First and foremost, they try to create a good young person.
At the time, I didn't realise how it can sort of help you, both on and off the pitch.
I'd been there since I was 5½, so I'd came through the whole way. The staff who was always there, and I'm talking about the whole of the staff. I'm not just about the staff who were on the pitch, I'm talking about the kitchen staff, the medical stuff, the people who clean our kit and stuff. They mean everything, so I'm playing out now on the pitch, but I just hope that they've got a massive smile on their face because I'm doing it for them as well.
It's been a special rise for me and the club. I think there's lots of different ups and downs. As much as we all want to become professional footballers, I think it's hard. Not everyone can do it. First and foremost, they try to create a good young person. Definitely the club's been very good at that, whilst also making it enjoyable on the pitch as well.
Clubs are investing significant amounts of money themselves into academies, and it's growing every year. But there's big money to be made in return. With academy sales representing pure profit, and more teams struggling to meet profit and sustainability rules, selling homegrown players with very little experience has become a crucial business strategy. Just look at the increase in the last few seasons. And some clubs excel at it. Manchester City and Chelsea bringing in nearly £500 million combined in academy sales since 2016.
Given how much players are worth to the clubs, are they looking after them enough? We've seen the highs and we've seen the lows. So what else is the game doing to protect its young players, 91% of whom never play a professional game?
The jury took just 3¼ hours to return a unanimous verdict of guilty for both Moses Swabu and Delroy Facey on the single charge of a conspiracy to commit bribery. Swabu from Bermondsey, he used to be a Crystal Palace trainee, but plied his trade in the lower leagues. The prosecution said he's gone to a younger player and asked him if he would be prepared to rig a football match for money. That isn't just relaying messages as per Mr. Swabu's defence, it is akin to being the getaway driver in a robbery, he told the jury. Swabu was sentenced to 16 months in prison for match fixing. He now works with clubs and governing bodies like FIFA to try to protect young players who, when released or when they drop down the leagues, can fall prey to criminal gangs.
I'll say the reality from my experience, it's almost like death. I've seen the reaction or the chain reaction from it. Once you get released or you drop out the game, what am I going to do? As your money deteriorates and you're not making no football money, you start to realise, how am I going to pay for that car? It's the pressure of, OK, how am I going to make money? This is where the gang and what you know comes around because everyone always keeps their ear to the streets.
So you're saying that young players, if they're released, or if they're having a hard time of it in football, can be very vulnerable in those sorts of communities?
100%. It's like I've experienced friends that have passed away and, you know, fallen victim of street crime. So whether that's stabbings or shootings, but then again, it hurts, you cry, internally you bleed, but who do you really speak to? These are versions of what players or people from my community go through. It's very easy to fall into those traps because what starts off as, can you go and give this to that person? I'm going to give you a couple of £100, could very much lead into that couple of hundreds of £1,000. By the time you go back to your mum's house, she hasn't got food or she's working a night shift, cleaning or doing something just to put means on the table. Then you feel almost guilty because your dad's not around. So as 15, 16, you have to become the man of your house.
From what we've seen, football's changed quite a bit from when you were having your career. What's your view? Are the authorities doing enough?
My question will be, if the club are turning around and saying there's aftercare, how far does that extend? The aftercare should really be an aftercare for life. If Moses Swabu goes to prison, somebody at the club may turn around and say, you know what, he's been part of our club and he was a good lad, let me go and visit him. I very much feel like I've been a sacrifice for something that I couldn't really control. It was bigger than me. But then what I need to do is take responsibility for my own actions, but then give people an insight as to why I made those decisions.
It's an extraordinary story you've had personally. How are you using that to try and help football now and help young footballers?
Not everybody really wants to speak about them because it's almost the elephant in the room. Why do we want to tell them too much when we just want them to play football? It's harder to have that discussion when he says, my mum's passed away. Yeah, my mum's taking drugs. Yeah, I've been shot at 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I stabbed someone. By the way, this is coming from players at Premier League clubs. So when I'm talking of some of the conversations I've had, you're never really going to know the depth of what's really going on.
What's your goal now? What's the thing that drives you?
For football in particular, it's making sure my own story and my experiences are easily transferable and transferable skills. So it's almost like, even though I'm talking in first person, I'm almost a case study in a unique way to football as a whole.
Swabu was a trainee at Crystal Palace more than 15 years ago. His former club is now a pioneer when it comes to providing aftercare for released academy players.
I think it was through conversations with myself and the chairman that we just didn't feel there was enough transition for athletes, not just in football but in sport. It was always an ambition of ours to fill that space. We call it a 3-year cycle. We sort of know the opening months they'll be in shock of getting released, then there'll be an angry period where they resent the football club for a period, or the people at the football club that made that decision. But then there's a period when they come to their acceptance of the situation and then may turn to us for some support.
So you're nearly 3 years into these changes now. What do those measures entail?
We've appointed a head of transitions that tries to stay in regular contact with the players that leave the club. For every player that leaves the club, some won't need it. Some will be fine, some will get, other clubs. They'll go into a family business, or they would have had their hearts set on something else. But we're there for the 20 or 30% that need that little support of sense of direction. And it's up to us to highlight those to them and help steer them, almost like a careers officer, into things they can do.
Was football letting these young players down by not having anything in place on the other side, do you think?
I think so. If we've done anything, we've just created awareness in the subject. And hopefully some of these players will benefit from the clubs helping them.
You must be pretty proud of that.
Yeah, really proud. I think that the summer when we was aware that others had took it on, I remember texting the chairman that summer, and it was as if we had a sense of achievement that hopefully we've changed and going to change a lot of young players' lives.
Palace led the way and others have followed. Premier League clubs are now required to have a full-time player care member of staff responsible for providing aftercare. A 3-year commitment of support for players released aged 17 to 21 is also mandatory. In the EFL, the responsibility for player care comes under the jurisdiction of League Football Education, or LFE for short. They have around 40 members of staff and are based at offices here in Preston.
This is Anthony calling from LFE. Are you free at the moment, just for a quick phone call then? I know we've obviously spoke during your time as an apprentice. It's a good chance for us to check in on you, see how you're doing, and also see what you're up to.
LFE's tracking and monitoring programme's been in action for 15 years now. We're really passionate about softening that landing once people have completed the programme. So we've got a team of people, have got empathy, they've been through the system themselves, to reach out once a year for 3 years to everybody, irrespective of your contract decision. Where are you? What have you committed to footballing-wise? Are you furthering your education? Have you stepped into employment, and what is it? But perhaps the most important part of this process is being able to redirect people to something that might be more inspiring and help them feel more fulfilled. We realise that football can be a passport for young players, and sometimes they just don't realise it, or don't have the knowledge or understand the pathways to get out overseas. We've sent nearly 300 players out to Sweden over the last 10 years. We've worked in Spain, and we've got 30 players going out to the US and Australia later this year. We have 250 released apprentices and first-year pros play in a series of showcase games across the country every year. We've got an array of scouts there from professional clubs, semi-professional clubs in this country and overseas, UK and USA universities, both with elite football programmes attached to them, so there's some genuine opportunities. And the relationship with the Premier League has gone from strength to strength. We're working on different projects, different events, transition camps.
Yes, good up. Don't take it before the green cone.
So we're at the PDP preparation camp.
And this is a transition support programme to support players that are leaving the clubs in the summer. A lot of our players are moving on to new destinations, and this programme really sets them up for the new seasons.
My name's Stephen Besant. I'm 19 years old. Previous club was Newcastle United. In my second year, I was out for about 7 months with bursitis and a torn meniscus. Just because you've been released from a club doesn't mean you're a bad player. So much of it is circumstantial.
My name's Malik Lawal Olumegbo. I'm 18. They were also saying that I was in their plans for the next season. I appreciate the honesty, no hard feelings, and move on to the next.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Call out. Why did you want to come in this room?
We have well-being elements to this programme. We ensure that the boys are really taken care of in that part, and not to be thinking maybe the club they've been at was the one flight path to success. We take the opportunity to sort of raise awareness of the many different pathways that are available to them, and that's in football. We have a showcase game later in the week where we invite lots of clubs to come and see the players as well who might have been missed. We've got scholarships available to university. We're fortunate at the Premier League to have partners such as Nike, Barclays, Electronic Arts, to give them exposure to those industry pathways as well.
Being a footballer doesn't define you as a person. Even just having been at an academy, especially doing a scholarship there, sets me up really well to go into any future employment or education.
We've had a lot of talks really just opening our eyes to opportunities we weren't even aware about. So it's not really the most secure career from obviously a general standpoint, so you always have to have options.
In the past, maybe it had not been at the forefront. You think you've equipped the players well and they will move on to the next generation. We're much more conscious now as a game. We've got staff in clubs who are specifically working on supporting transition after release or if a player's out of contract. It's really much more at the forefront of our aftercare, our player care. But that's part of being a professional footballer. I was a professional footballer. I was released numerous times in my career. It is going to be something that may happen down the line, but we make sure that the provision in the clubs is there for them. We're mindful that we've got a part to play ensuring that we're supporting the next steps as well.
The end of a playing career doesn't always mean the end of a journey in football. Tom Reynolds took a completely different route.
I joined Charlton Athletic at the age of 9 and then stayed there for 3 seasons and left around 12. And then the next year I joined West Ham, played just for 1 season and then got released. It wasn't a tough release, it was just basically you're not good enough and that was fine. I'd played football for 10 years. I wanted to use that knowledge and go into something, and everyone that weren't making it as footballers were going into coaching and going into managers or physiotherapists, and for me it was a case that I was like, there must be something else.
From Reading and Charlton to working in analytics, then on to Russia with Lokomotiv Moscow and Germany with Eintracht Frankfurt. Tom has spent over a decade behind the scenes in football.
At the time, I'd never heard of performance analysis. It was only until I went to university that I knew that was an avenue. Performance analysis can lead to 5, 6, 7 different roles now.
Do you ever now miss playing?
Yeah, I think I still find it where I'm talking to a player or I'm talking to a coach where players are around and you see them going out on the football pitch and you're the one dragging the equipment or setting up the equipment and you're like, just want to put my boots on and get involved again. But I mean, there's a reason as to why I didn't become a professional footballer, and that was because I wasn't good enough. But also I'm proud of what I've achieved.
Breaking news, and England are under-17s world champions. They produce a remarkable comeback to beat Spain in the final in India.
Success at a global level for an England team. Big news. There was a buzz around those young players, and some have gone on to big things. But of the starting 11, only one player has made under 20 professional appearances, the goalkeeper, Curtis Anderson. It's all very different now compared with 2012, when Manchester City paid Blackpool £15,000 to sign him.
You're 11 years old and there's a proper transfer fee being paid for you. What's that like?
I wasn't aware of it. I didn't arrive at City thinking, well, I've had a fee paid for me. I just remember getting there thinking this is a level up.
At what point did you think, I've made it?
I don't think I ever thought that.
Really?
No. When I got to about 16, 17, I was playing for England, I got my scholarship, I got my pro. I think I started to realise that I've got a chance. I don't think I ever thought I've actually made it. We knew we were in a good spot, but at the same time, we also knew that like every year, when we're getting closer to under 16s, a bunch of our mates would be released at 16.
And look, I won't ask you figures, but are we talking big money here?
For a 17-year-old, yeah. In the grand scheme of football, maybe not, but when you've gone from earning a scholar wage to earning professional money at Man City level professional money, then yeah, it's a lot of money.
Okay, guys.
Did it change you or your outlook or your belief when you won that World Cup?
Well, I remember someone saying to me, like, you're a World Cup winner now. And I was like, that's cool. But our goalkeeper coach is Spanish, and I remember him saying to me, he's like, brilliant, like, you've done amazing. But our Spanish youth teams have won the World Cup for years, or they've won the Euros for years, and I took it as he meant it. He meant it in a positive way, that don't let it get to your head too much. It also then did bring me back down to, right, well, me worrying about getting that new contract, winning the World Cup's not going to help that, which I thought it probably would have, but it turned out it didn't.
After Manchester City, Anderson played third-tier football in the USA. 0 appearances at Wycombe, including 2 non-league loan spells. Then came the drop. Lancaster City, Bootle, and an appearance for Kendal Town in the 9th tier of English football. But Anderson is now at the top of the game again, in a different capacity. He's a financial advisor for young footballers in the Premier League and EFL, sharing some of the lessons he's learned in the game.
The difference between saving and investing, with an ISA you can put £20,000 in a year and that money grows tax-free. Even if I'd have just left like 5 grand of that 30 that I spoke about, who knows what that'd be worth today?
Was it difficult to let that dream go?
Don't get me wrong, there was times when the World Cup was on, and I remember just like going to bed and I'd struggle to sleep because I'm like, how has this happened? I seen like teammates I won the World Cup with playing in the actual first team men's World Cup. It wasn't necessarily I was sat there thinking, oh, I should have been playing in that. It was more, how am I not even getting a game for Lancaster? Years earlier, but my enjoyment of what I do now overrides my enjoyment when I played. I'm getting a lot of fulfilment out of looking after people, taking the stress away from them because they don't have to worry about the finances. And then with the extra money, opening investment accounts.
Your own experiences must help you an awful lot in the particular niche of financial advice you've gone into.
I think that's where my selling point is, to be honest, and why I'm trusted by a lot of players, is because I can relate to you. I always say to the lads all the time, I'll come to you with the ideas. At the end of the day, it's your money. Like, I'm here to help. If someone came to see me when I was 18, I'm sure what he was telling me was perfect, but I didn't relate with it. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you because I'm trying to be the guy I needed when I was 18.
There are so many young players like Curtis who are using their experiences from the academy system to help them in a more general field of work.
My name's George Barnby. I was a football player for Scunthorpe United for 2 years as a youth team apprentice. I now work for City Healthcare Partnership as an apprentice nurse.
My name's Emmanuel Falabi. I play for Charlton Athletic Academy for 9 seasons. I currently work for a company called Rambo. My job involves designing highway pavement designs, logo and drainage systems for various types of developments.
Hi there, my name's Jack McMillan and I was a professional footballer for Notts County Football Club, and I'm an advanced breathwork and yoga instructor for professional athletes, which include GB, and mostly for professional footballers.
My name is Seiko Kadam, and I used to play for Walsall FC from the age of 11 all the way through to age 18. I'm now a dental student in King's College London in my 2nd year.
My name is Drew Ricketts. I previously played football for Oxford United, Mansfield Town and Tamworth Football Club. I now spend my work life part of West Midlands Fire Service.
We've found that people are going on and doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things. We have apprentices go to university and study a right variety of courses. Not everybody will necessarily fall into a career as such, but it's for us to help them find contentment in whatever's next for them. We've got the programmes, we've got the education, the support, the strategy. The barrier is actually trying to help a young aspiring footballer get out of their heads of being a footballer. Can we get people to see there's more to life outside of football?
The Premier League also launched their Futures programme, aiming to support players with their next chapter.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the National Football Museum for tonight's Future Celebration event.
Everything you learn from football, take those skills and apply it somewhere else. I was lucky enough to find DJ as a passion.
Growth mindset, and that's a key thing that I've learned from the Premier League programme. Soft skills, hard skills, your hard work, bounce back ability, resilience, communication skills. Your teamwork from being in an environment can put you in such good stead.
Nowadays, clubs aren't only looking to protect young players after they've finished playing. Well-being and holistic care is at the forefront of so many academy programmes.
Is it the toughest time for you personally, when you've actually got to sit down with parents and kids and deliver bad news?
I think it is. Because you build up a huge relationship with the players, with the families, you get very, very close to them, and ultimately we want everybody to succeed. But you work really hard that whatever the decision is, to support them in the best way, in what support that they need at that moment in time.
It's absolutely not the end. There are so many different opportunities available. We like to think that the experience they get within the academy is really life-enriching. We do a lot of work to really try and normalise the journey for them a little bit, right from the start, from an early age. There are going to be loads of ups and downs throughout the academy life. There are plenty of examples as well within the Premier League at the moment from successful players that have been released multiple times from academies, had to go through that heartache, I suppose, of getting released at that time, to then build that resilience and go through adversity to then get another opportunity at another club.
We have the opportunity to shape lives of young, aspiring footballers. It's all-encompassing around working with players, with staff, with parents to give them some experiences that potentially they would never have got before. One that sticks in my mind a lot was, when we took a team away on tour, and that was at the Giants Causeway in Northern Ireland. A boy came from a very difficult environment, and he ended up standing by the sea. And when I got to him, I said, are you okay? Is everything all right? And he said, I've never seen the sea. It was a real light bulb moment. We were impacting young people's lives.
It's interesting what Chris mentions there, because life skills and character development play a huge part in EPPP thinking. Teenagers learn about other cultures and they can travel. There are tournaments in India and China, for example, while the Truce tournament teaches academy players about the First World War. And across the divisions, young players receive life skills presentations and training.
Life skills has always existed in a certain way, but it's become very much the forefront, really, of player care now, where we're trying to develop a young person to be as rounded as possible.
Definitely looking back on it, it's a good thing that the players have to participate in. Probably at the time I didn't realise how it can sort of help you, both on and off the pitch. But that's probably the naivety of teenagers who just want to play football.
The programme's strategy has 3 key outcomes to support performance, well-being and transition, feeling comfortable in all states, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, even socially. And it's the ability to deal with change that we're striving to support young people with. 100% of clubs will receive LFE's programmes resources support. In addition to that, they've got their own player care programme, and we provide well in excess of 1,000 workshops a season, and we've reached in excess of 34,000 participants, and that is players under 9 to under 21, staff, parents, carers, host family. There's a lot of people in, say, 9 or 10 months of the year.
Tony Adams is our founder. The reason why Tony kind of set up Sporting Chance was that he suffered with addiction, and he found that more footballers and sports people were coming to him and saying, you know what, Tony, I've been struggling as well. It's kind of talking about mental health and their lifestyle and the effect that the two can kind of have on each other. We like to try and give them a little bit of an interactive session, which gets them involved and makes them realise they're in a very difficult profession, which can really affect mental health. I know that myself from the journey I went through in my career. When I was flying, from a picture perspective, life was fantastic. But in truth, I was down here because I had things going on in the background, I had things going on from a personal perspective. There's just so many different aspects that can affect somebody's mental health, and especially in a football environment where it's so high pressure. And that's why I find it so important now to be able to kind of give back to the younger footballers, give them kind of messages that I would have wanted to hear at their age.
To make your French toast, I'm just going to demonstrate. It's so simple. Great pre-match. Right, lads, thanks for your patience. I just want to come here to try and make a difference to your overall performance and health and give you a little bit of an insight and a story into my journey as a professional athlete. On the Life Skills programme, I went round to about 45, 50 clubs last season. If athletes are sticking to whole foods, fueling the body properly, then they're going to get a positive impact with the performance, the health and recovery as well. Back in my day, I never got access to this information at all. When I tell my story on how I rose from you know, the conference to the Premier League, I think it sort of hits home because I was sat in their shoes once. My Friday night was a really heavy pasta bake full of cheese. The reality is you need to include a lot of colour into your diet. Give it a whisk. So lads, it's as simple as that. It'll take you a couple of minutes in the morning. It's my why when I get a message from the lads who have been involved in the session saying, oh, you've really helped me. And I've had a lot of parents reach out to me saying, my kid hasn't touched a McDonald's in 6 months.
Well, that looks good to me. That's a nice one.
And if you make a difference in, you know, 1 or 2 people's lives in that room, then it's definitely worth it.
Looks good, that one. Looks really good.
It's not just life skills that the football authorities provide to youngsters. Youth development rules mean players have sessions on mental and emotional well-being support. Academies also have their own action plans. The Premier League run player care and transition working groups with clubs and other football organisations to share knowledge. And they work with the charities NSPCC and Sporting Chance to offer additional expertise. The PFA come in here too, using Premier League funding to provide an independent youth advisory service and a player helpline that offers confidential support.